11 years ago, my daughter rang my doorbell, left her little boy on my porch, and disappeared into the night. Everyone said he'd never manage a normal life, too sensitive, too quiet, too different. They didn't see what I saw. That little boy, my grandson Liam, grew into a teenager who built a program so powerful companies paid millions for it. I thought that would be the happy ending. I was wrong. The moment his story hit the news, his mother came back with a lawyer, paperwork, and a story that could steal everything from us. Welcome to Granny's Stories Vault, where every day you'll hear a new emotional, heart-touching, and sad story drawn from life, told from a grandmother's heart. If you love real stories that make you feel, cry, and think, please sit close, my dears. Today, I'm going to tell you how I raised my autistic grandson alone, how he quietly built something worth millions, and how my own daughter returned to try to take it all. My name is Helen, I'm 68 years old, and this is the story of the boy everyone underestimated, and the day truth had to fight against lies in a courtroom. That night is burned into me like a scar. A cold Friday evening in late autumn when my daughter Clara showed up at my little house with her 5-year-old son, Liam, clutching a too-light backpack. "Just for the weekend, Mom," she said, eyes already looking past me, one foot pointed toward the street. "I just need a break." Liam didn't say a word. He rocked on his heels, eyes glued to the porch, small hands clamped over his ears even though everything was quiet. I noticed the backpack first, how it barely weighed anything, and a chill went through me that had nothing to do with the weather. Before I could ask any real questions, Clara was already halfway to her car. "I'll call you Sunday," she tossed over her shoulder, not kissing him, not even bending down to his level. Her red tail lights slid away into the darkness, and I remember standing there with my hand on the doorknob, Liam rocking and humming beside me, thinking, I've taught children my whole life. I know how to handle kids. But I had no idea how to live with a child who flinched at the sound of the refrigerator motor, who refused every food I offered, who screamed like he was in pain when I tried to help him brush his teeth, who stayed awake all night, humming to himself in a strange, low tone. I called Clara the next morning. No answer. I called in the evening. Still nothing. Days turned into a week, then 2, and the uneasy feeling in my chest hardened into a terrifying truth. My daughter hadn't dropped off her son for a weekend. She had quietly walked out of his life and left me at the starting line of a race I didn't know the rules for. I thought the hardest part would be getting him to eat and sleep. But the real heartbreak came with one phone call on Christmas Eve when my daughter finally picked up. The weeks after Clara vanished were a blur of ringing phones that no one answered and tiny battles I kept losing. Breakfast he refused to touch, clothes that felt wrong against his skin, toothbrush bristles that made him scream like I'd burned him. I was a retired primary school teacher. I taught a few autistic children over the decades, but always with assistants, therapists, and detailed plans. Now the plan was just me, an old woman walking through a dark room, feeling for furniture with shaking hands. I took Liam to the pediatrician, and the doctor confirmed what my heart already knew, but my mind had been tiptoeing around. Autism, likely diagnosed late, with sensory sensitivities and rigid routines we knew nothing about because Clara had never bothered to tell me. "You're in charge now, Mrs. Collins," the doctor said gently. "We'll build a support network, but he needs stability more than anything." Stability, that became my religion. I learned, through trial and many loud errors, that he could eat the exact same breakfast if nothing touched on the plate. Scrambled eggs, toast cut diagonally, not straight. I learned the route to therapy, and school couldn't change, not even by one street, or he'd melt down in the car. I learned that touching him without warning could make him recoil like I'd shocked him. So instead of hugging, I sat near him. Instead of forcing eye contact, I talked to him while he stared at the wall. I traded control for observation, and slowly the house grew quieter, not happy, but less desperate. Then came Christmas Eve. I was in the kitchen, the smell of sugar cookies filling the air, when my phone finally lit up with Clara's name. I dropped the spatula and grabbed it like a lifeline. "Clara, thank God. When are you coming to get him? He needs you. I need to know what he eats, what calms him." Her voice was flat, distant, as if she were calling from another planet. "Mom, I can't do this. He's yours now." For a moment, I didn't understand. "What are you talking about? He's your son." There was a crack in her voice, a hint of tears, but no warmth. "I tried, okay? I tried and I failed. You always said you were better with kids, so be better with him." The line went dead. My oven started smoking, the cookies had burned to charcoal, and I sat on the kitchen floor with the ruined tray beside me, the phone in my hand, feeling like someone had quietly cut the ropes holding my world together. That's when I saw Liam in the doorway. He watched me for a long moment, longer than he'd ever really looked at me before, then walked to the counter, picked up the yellow plastic cup I'd been using for him since the day he arrived, and carried it over. He set it down gently next to my leg, then went back to the living room without a word. Maybe he didn't understand the phone call, but he understood that I was on the floor and that I always handed him that yellow cup when he was overwhelmed. Now he was offering it back to me. I cried until my chest hurt, one hand on the cup, and knew with a clarity that took my breath away. Whatever my daughter had run from, I was staying. Liam's small act of comfort was only the beginning, because the quiet boy who barely spoke was about to reveal a mind that saw patterns the rest of us were blind to. The years between that Christmas Eve and Liam's 8th birthday slid by in a strange rhythm. Therapy sessions, school meetings, routines so fixed they could have been printed on stone tablets. At 6, he became obsessed with magnetic letters on the fridge. He didn't spell words. Instead, he arranged them into color groups and strange sequences, reds blending into oranges, oranges into yellows, each letter in perfect gradient order. I'd stand there with my coffee, squinting to see the differences he saw instantly. When I asked his therapist if I should be worried, she smiled. "He's organizing his world. Let him." So I did. Notebooks soon replaced fridge letters, cheap little pads from the discount store that he filled with circles, lines, and mysterious marks. At first, they looked like nonsense, but over time they became letters, then labels. Eggs, home, school, carefully printed in block capitals. By 8, he was writing full sentences about his day, even if he still struggled to look people in the eye. The first time he asked about his mother, it came out of nowhere. I was at the stove making, as always, scrambled eggs and toast, when he sat at the table, notebook open, pencil moving in short, quick strokes. "Why did Mom leave?" he asked, eyes fixed on the page. I almost dropped the spatula. For 3 years, he'd spoken only in fragments and single words. This was a full question, a sharp blade aimed at the softest part of me. I sat down across from him, heart racing. I could have lied. I could have softened it with stories about needing time or being busy. Instead, I told him what I believed was the cleanest version of the truth. "She said she couldn't handle everything you needed. She should have tried harder, but she didn't. So I did." He nodded once, wrote something in his notebook, and went back to silence. I finished breakfast, then cried in the bathroom where he couldn't hear me. I thought the biggest fight of his life would be inside our house, teaching him to speak, to eat, to sleep. I was wrong. When he was 9 and in 4th grade, the real fight came from the school, wrapped in polite voices and official forms. The principal called and suggested Liam would be better served in a special class, away from other kids who could move at a different pace. Translated, he made them uncomfortable. I arrived at that meeting with a huge folder. Test scores showing he read years above his grade, math assessments proving he could handle more than they gave him, therapist notes describing his progress. They had their folders 2 lists of social delays, observations about him covering his ears in music class, notes about his quietness. "Education isn't just academics, Mrs. Collins," the principal said in that calm, patronizing tone I recognized from my own teaching days. "It's about group participation and communication." "Then help him participate," I said, my voice trembling. "Don't hide him." In that moment, the years of keeping every paper, every note, every report suddenly mattered. Their words were vague, mine were documented. I argued that he had a legal right to stay in the regular classroom with proper support, noise-canceling headphones, a quieter corner, extra time for transitions. By the end of the meeting, they reluctantly agreed to write an accommodation plan instead of removing him. That night, I spread all those papers on our kitchen table, organizing them into a giant binder so I'd never be caught unprepared again. Liam watched from the doorway at first, then came and stood beside me. "You're sorting them wrong," he said quietly. He pointed to a pile I'd made. "These should be by date first, then by type." I handed him the stack. "Show me." He reordered everything in minutes: therapy notes by year, school reports by grade, medical papers in flawless sequence. That was when I realized something quietly astonishing. While the world saw a boy who avoided eye contact and rocked when he was overwhelmed, I was living with a mind built for structure, patterns, and evidence. I just didn't know yet how far that mind would go. The binders on my kitchen table were only the beginning, because the boy who reorganized my paperwork was about to discover a language that would turn his love for patterns into something far more powerful: code. Liam turned 12 the year he discovered programming, and my old, wheezing laptop suddenly became the most valuable object in the house. I walked into the dining room one afternoon and found him sitting perfectly still, eyes locked on a screen full of strange words, brackets, and symbols. It looked like nonsense to me. "What are you working on?" I asked, wiping my hands on a dish towel. "Python," he said without looking up. "A programming language. I found a tutorial." For most kids, that would have been a passing phase, like a new game or a hobby. For Liam, it was like someone had handed him the instruction manual for the universe. All summer, while other children went to parks and pools, he sat at the table with that laptop, his chipped yellow cup beside him, slowly building tiny programs. One that sorted files, one that found duplicates, one that checked if something had changed. He didn't brag, he just quietly made things work. For his 13th birthday, I emptied what little was left in my savings and bought him a real computer. The man at the electronics store asked what it was for. "Programming," Liam answered calmly. "I'm making tools that track changes in files." The man chuckled like it was cute, but I'd already seen enough to know it wasn't just cute, it was serious. At home, Liam set up his new machine in his bedroom, and within a week had installed 3 monitors and a scanner I barely knew how to use. "I want to digitize everything," he told me over breakfast. "The binders, the calendars, your receipts, all of it." "That's a lot of paper," I said, picturing my old boxes in the garage. "Why?" He didn't answer right away. "So nothing gets lost," he said finally. "And so nobody can change what happened." We spent months feeding our lives through that scanner. Old calendars showing therapy appointments, school meetings, phone bills, bank statements, grocery receipts, the little notes I'd scribbled about what he'd eaten on particularly hard days. I thought he was cataloging his childhood, trying to make sense of the years his mother had been absent. In reality, he was building something far more structured. Each scan page was given a unique digital fingerprint, then linked to the files before and after it. "It's like a chain," he explained one evening, his face lit by the glow of the monitors. "If someone changes one link, the whole chain shows the break. You can see exactly where something was tampered with." I didn't pretend to fully understand the technical details, but I recognized the idea. Proof that could stand up against memory, against lies, against revisionist stories. Around 14, he refined that idea into a full verification system. He showed me one night by opening a document, running his program, and pointing to the string of numbers on the screen. "That's the document's signature," he said. "If someone changes even one word, the signature changes." He altered a sentence, reran the program, and the numbers flipped into a completely different pattern. "This," he said quietly, "tells you what's real and what's been faked." At the time, I thought he was just building something impressive for future college applications. It never occurred to me that he was assembling a shield we would one day desperately need. Liam's system started as protection for our memories, but when he sold it for millions and the news cameras showed up, someone else saw an opportunity: his absent mother. By the time Liam turned 16, the program he'd been quietly building in that cramped bedroom had grown into something companies were willing to pay real money for. He called it a verification system, but that sounded too small for what it actually did. It could analyze documents, track their hidden fingerprints, compare signatures and timestamps, and spot forgeries that human eyes and ordinary software would never notice. His first client was a small security firm that paid more than I'd made in months of substitute teaching. Then word spread. One contract turned into several. Finally, a large company made an offer to buy the software outright. Liam sat at our kitchen table across from a business lawyer I'd hired, a patient man who carefully walked us through pages of terms. "You understand," he told Liam, "this is an acquisition, not a license. They'll own the system. You'll walk away with a large one-time payment, but you won't be able to build competing software in the same field for several years." Liam listened, hands folded, eyes steady. "That's fine," he said. "I'm done with this type of software once it's sold." And just like that, my grandson, who had once screamed at the sound of a running tap, sold his creation for more money than I could wrap my mind around. $3.2 million. I cried in private that night, not because of the money itself, but because of what it meant. All those rigid routines, all the careful breakfasts and fixed routes, all the battles with schools that said he was too difficult. He had taken those scars and turned them into something powerful. A week later, the local news called. They'd heard about the quiet autistic teen who created revolutionary security software and wanted to film a segment. I hated the thought of cameras in our small living room, of people turning our life into a feel-good story for ratings. But Liam said yes, and I reminded myself that it was his story as much as mine. The reporter was younger than I expected, with bright eyes and practiced sympathy. She set up lights in the corner of our living room, had Liam sit at his desk, and asked him to explain what his program did. "It verifies whether documents are authentic," he said in his usual calm tone. "It detects changes, who made them and when. It shows what's real." She tried to tug at emotions, asking about his journey and obstacles. Liam's answers were short, factual, stubbornly undramatic. They aired a polished 2-minute segment that Friday, sweeping shots of him typing, dramatic music, a narrator talking about overcoming challenges. People from the neighborhood started stopping me at the grocery store, saying how inspiring he was. Liam just shrugged and went back to his computer, but something in him shifted after that broadcast. He grew quieter, more watchful. I'd catch him staring out the window, fingers tapping lightly on his yellow cup, as if he were waiting for something invisible but inevitable. 2 weeks after the story aired, the doorbell rang on a slow Tuesday afternoon. I dried my hands and opened it, expecting a delivery. Instead, I saw a woman in a tailored gray suit, makeup soft and deliberate, standing beside a man with a polished briefcase. The woman smiled, a small, tight smile that didn't touch her eyes. "Hi, Mom," she said. For a second, my brain refused to connect her face with the memory of the young mother who had once driven away from my porch. But it was her, Clara. Older, sharper, but unmistakable. "Is Liam home?" she asked, peering past me into the hallway like she had every right to. My throat closed. "This is Mr. Hart," she added, gesturing to the man beside her. "My attorney. We'd like to talk about Liam's future and his finances." I should have shut the door. I should have told her to leave. Instead, shock held me still, and I didn't notice Liam standing behind me until he spoke. "Let them in," he said quietly. When I turned, his face was completely blank in that way I had learned meant his brain was moving very fast. I didn't yet know what he was planning. I only knew that a woman who had walked out of his life 11 years earlier had just returned, right after millions of dollars did. Clara didn't just come back with apologies. She came with paperwork, a lawyer, and a story that painted her as the loving mother who'd never left. And on paper, it looked terrifyingly real. Clara stood in my living room like she'd never left, like she hadn't dropped her son at my porch and vanished into the night without a word. But this time, she wasn't empty-handed. She came with a lawyer in a suit so pristine it didn't belong anywhere near my worn beige carpet. "I want to be part of Liam's life again," she said, her voice smooth, rehearsed. "I made mistakes. I left because I thought he'd be better off without me, but I always planned to come back. I want to make things right." If I had been less stunned, I would have asked why it took her 11 years. Why she had never once sent a birthday card, never asked how he was sleeping, eating, speaking. But before I could find my voice, the lawyer stepped forward and placed a stack of papers on the coffee table. "Miss Collins," he began, addressing me, "my client is seeking joint custody to ensure she can support Liam's future. She believes that now he's of age to have income, adding her name would help manage his earnings responsibly." There it was, not a mother asking for forgiveness, but a calculated demand. They weren't after reconciliation. They wanted access. To the money, Liam sat on the edge of the couch, hands folded, watching everything with a stillness that unnerved me. He didn't rock, didn't hum, didn't fidget. He just listened. "We're not here to cause conflict," Clara added, and I noticed the diamond ring on her finger, something she hadn't been wearing the night she'd fled. "We're offering a path forward. If you refuse, we'll have to pursue this in court." I felt like the floor was dissolving under me. I had raised Liam. I had fought for him when he couldn't speak for himself. And now the woman who had walked away was threatening to erase all that. "He doesn't need your support," I managed to say, my voice trembling. "You haven't even seen him in over a decade. Don't pretend this is about love." Clara sighed, like she was exhausted by my small-mindedness. The lawyer remained expressionless. Liam finally spoke. "What are you asking for exactly?" His voice was so quiet it was almost lost in the room, but every word was steady. The lawyer slid the papers toward him. "Full joint financial control," he said, "and legal recognition of parental status with access to both current funds and any future earnings tied to the intellectual property you created." Silence. Intellectual property. They hadn't just shown up because of the money he already had. They had learned the system he built was going to be worth a lot more over time. They were planning not just for his past, but for his future. Liam nodded slowly, then stood up. "I need time to look through all of this," he said calmly. "You'll get an answer." The lawyer nodded, but Clara moved, blocking his view. "Liam, sweetheart," she said, reaching for him. "I'm still your mother. You can trust me." He stepped back, not rudely, just firmly. "You didn't come to the school meetings," he said. "You didn't help when I couldn't sleep. You don't get to pretend now." Her mouth twitched, but she didn't respond. They left soon after, leaving the contract on the table like a toxin. That night, I sat at the kitchen table with the binder of documents Liam and I had assembled over the years. Phone records, school reports, appointment logs. It was a history written in ink, undeniable, time-stamped, truthful. "They're going to lie," Liam said from the doorway, voice calm as ever. "And they're going to change the story." "What can we do?" I asked, trying to keep my voice even, but feeling the edges of panic rising. He walked in, placed one of the scanned papers beside me. A custody document from when he was 6, with only my name on it. "We have proof," he said, "and I built something that catches lies." Then he looked up at me for the first time in hours. "We're going to court." I thought the courtroom would be the worst of it. But the real shock came before the trial even began, when Clara's lawyer submitted their version of the story, and it was nothing like the truth. 2 weeks later, a thick envelope arrived in the mail, official, stamped, and heavy. I felt sick before I even opened it. Inside was a petition for custody, but attached to it was something even more unsettling. Clara's version of our past. She didn't just distort a few details, she rewrote the story entirely. Liam was voluntarily placed in the care of his grandmother by mutual agreement, it said. Mother maintained periodic contact until unjustly cut off. Grandmother discouraged visitation. Child was denied access to maternal family. Mother has been prevented from exercising her rights and is now seeking to rectify the situation so she can support her son's financial and emotional future. My hands shook. It was like reading a horror story written about my own life. They included screenshots of text messages, ones I'd never sent, where I supposedly refused to let Clara visit, fake phone logs, a record of deposits she claimed to have made for Liam's care, lies layered so professionally they almost looked real. "They forged these," I whispered, pacing the kitchen, my heart pounding. "They created evidence." Liam had spread the court papers across the table, scanning them carefully. "They didn't forge them," he corrected, clicking slowly through his program. "They altered real ones." He turned the monitor toward me. On one side, the document Clara had submitted. On the other, a document from my own binder, the real one. "The timestamp doesn't match the content. See this signature hash?" he pointed. "It's different." They changed the text, then backdated it. I stared at him, my own grandson showing me how lies could be dressed in legal formatting and passed off as truth. Without his program, I would have had no way to prove it. By now, I was done being afraid. I was angry. "This is why you made that tool," I said, voice trembling. "You knew someday someone would try to change the past." He didn't answer at first. Then, quietly, "I wanted to protect us, even from her." That night, I called a lawyer of my own, and we prepared to fight. But the most unexpected blow of all came not from our attorney or the courtroom, but from Clara herself, when she requested something I never imagined she'd say again. "I deserve to be part of the profits from the system Liam built," she said in a preliminary meeting. I contributed to his upbringing by giving birth to him. I supported him in ways you can't quantify. That was it. She wasn't a mother returning for love, she was a predator returning for profit. Liam sat beside me, expression unreadable. But his fingers tapped slowly on his yellow cup. I knew what that meant. He was planning. We thought we could simply walk into court and show the truth. But Clara wasn't done. The next move wasn't legal, it was personal. And it came from someone I never expected. I woke up the next morning, heavy with anger and disbelief, but ready to fight. I thought the battlefield would stay in the courtroom. I thought the lies would come only from Clara and her suited lawyer. I was wrong. The betrayal came from someone I never expected. It was a bright Saturday afternoon when there was a knock on the door. A familiar voice called through the screen. "Helen, it's me, Anita. Can I come in?" My breath caught in my chest. Anita had lived across the street as long as I had lived in this house. We'd shared cups of sugar, gossip, and grief. I'd trusted her with spare keys, confided in her when things got hard, laughed with her over garden fences. For years, she'd been my closest friend. "Of course," I said, opening the door. The moment she stepped in, I knew something was wrong. She looked nervous, clutching the strap of her purse like it was a lifeline. Her voice quivered when she spoke. "I wanted to talk to you before things get ugly," she said. "Clara came to see me." A cold weight settled in my stomach. She told me everything. I didn't know she'd been cut out like that. I had no idea. Anita looked up, eyes filled with pity for her. "She told you I cut her out?" I said slowly. "That I kept her son from her. She said you blocked her calls, that you told Liam she didn't want him. She showed me messages, Helen. It looked real. And she has a right to his life. You can't just erase a mother." I stared at her, feeling like the ground had shifted beneath me. She believed her. But worse, she already picked a side. "You've known me for years," I said. My voice was shaking, but not from fear this time. From heartbreak. "You know I would never lie to him." I begged her to come back. "Begged?" Anita looked down. "She said you destroyed the relationship, that you wanted to keep him to yourself." She wasn't just repeating Clara's lies, she was reciting them like scripture. "She told me she's already drafting her statement," Anita continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "And if they ask me what I remember, I'm not sure I can lie." That was it. She wasn't just abandoning me, she was preparing to testify for Clara. "I took care of him," I whispered, barely containing the hurt. "When he couldn't speak, when he couldn't sleep, when the world shut him out, she wasn't there. I was, you were too, until now." Anita's eyes shimmered. That was the worst part. She looked guilty, but not guilty enough to stop. She had been swayed, not by truth, by narrative. "Just think about it," she said, voice soft, backing toward the door. "He'll need both of them." She left, and the house fell into a silence that felt colder than winter. I sat in the living room, staring at the window where we used to watch the rain together, feeling my world fragment in new ways. Betrayal cuts deeper when it comes from someone who wore the face of a friend. The door opened again, softly this time. It was Liam. "I heard everything," he said. I didn't want him to see me break, but something in me cracked open. "I thought she'd stay with us," I said. "Even if she didn't understand everything, I thought she'd stay." Liam walked in, stood beside me without speaking. Then he turned, went to his desk, and pulled up the same program that had detected the tampering in Clara's documents. "She's going to submit testimony," he said, voice level. "They're going to bring character statements. They're not just trying to rewrite my history, they're trying to rewrite yours." He clicked something on the screen, and a digital timeline appeared, dates, records, events marked in blue. He clicked again, and a new timeline appeared in red. The false version Clara had started building. "We're going to have to prove the truth," he said, in front of everyone. Not just to the court, but to people who think they already know what happened. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. All I could do was look at the boy I'd raised and realize he was no longer a child standing behind me. He was my shield now too. The trial date was set. But right before we faced the judge, Clara showed up with someone I never expected to see, a man from Liam's past who held the power to tilt the entire case. The court date was set for early spring. The weather hadn't shifted yet. The air still had a bite to it, like it resented having to soften for the coming flowers. That morning, we arrived early, too early, sitting on a wooden bench outside the courtroom, papers stacked neatly in Liam's navy backpack, his laptop zipped up inside. I watched him watch the room. He wasn't rocking. He wasn't humming. He was still, too still. His face unreadable, his fingers pressed lightly to the yellow cup tucked inside his pocket like it was a talisman. My lawyer arrived, his voice low and steady. "We have strong evidence," he said. "Liam's records, the timestamps, the original documents, it's compelling." Compelling, not enough, not guaranteed. That was the truth. Just before the hearing began, the door swung open and Clara walked in. She wasn't alone. Behind her was a man I recognized instantly, despite how many years had passed. A tall, square-shouldered man with sharp features and the same dark eyes as Liam. Clara's attorney announced him as if presenting a prize. "This is Daniel Hayes," he said, "Liam's biological father." That name hit me like a blow. Daniel had disappeared before Liam was born. Clara never filed support, never pressed charges, never insisted he step in. I'd assumed he was just another ghost. But now he was here. Not as a father offering remorse or apology, but as a weapon. He shook my lawyer's hand and smiled, a polite, rehearsed smile that somehow made everything worse. "I always wanted to be part of my son's life," Daniel said for the record, "but I didn't know where to find him." It was a lie. Clara had told him nothing, and now they were playing tag team parent, pretending they'd been kept away. They didn't want reconciliation. They wanted control. They were going to claim that both parents had been pushed out, and now they were here to correct the injustice. Clara put her hand on Daniel's arm like she was showing off a trophy. "Liam deserves his family," she said gently, eyes cold. My heart tightened. This wasn't just a custody case anymore. They were building a narrative. A united parental front against the unstable, controlling grandmother who had cut them off. The judge called us in. The courtroom was quiet, with only the shuffle of papers and the distant clicking of someone's shoes echoing down the hall. Clara's lawyer stood up first. His opening statements were polished, emotional, and dripping with staged compassion. "Your Honor, my client deeply regrets that her son was kept from her for so long. She attempted for years to reconnect but was denied access. Now, given the significant finances and intellectual property at stake, she asks for only what any good mother would want: to support him, to participate, and to ensure his resources are managed responsibly." Then he gestured to Daniel. "And Mr. Hayes is here to reaffirm his dedication to his child." Daniel stood, shoulders wide, and said just one sentence: "All I ever wanted was a chance." Liam sat up straighter. His expression changed, not angry, not upset, but sharp. Focused. My lawyer stood next. Calm, methodical, he presented our binder. Original custody papers signed by Clara at age 24. Reports showing her absence. My calls, the school records showing I was the sole contact. All time-stamped. Then Liam unfolded his laptop with slow, deliberate care. The screen lit up with the verification interface he'd built. Clean, efficient, time-stamped. A quiet hammer of truth. "Your Honor," he said, voice steady but soft, "I developed this tool to verify documents. It tracks changes. Even one word altered changes the signature." The courtroom watched as he showed the original legal document, then the version submitted by Clara. On the screen, the signatures didn't match. And when he scrolled further, one had been digitally altered just 6 months ago, while the timestamp claimed it was from 10 years earlier. Clara's lawyer objected, claiming technical inconsistency, but the judge wanted to see more. Liam clicked open a video recording taken from his bedroom weeks earlier, the program catching the exact moment of tampering, proving the forgery wasn't theory. It was fact. Clara's face shattered. But Daniel stood up next. "She did that," he said pointedly. "Not me. I never agreed to change any documents. I'm here because I want my relationship with my son." They were dividing themselves. She would take the fall, he would step in as the reasonable parent. Clara began to cry. Real or rehearsed, I couldn't know anymore. The judge called for a recess. I sat on the wooden bench gripping Liam's hand, not because he needed it, but because I did. "I didn't know she'd bring him," I whispered. "I did," he said quietly. "How?" He didn't answer, just stared ahead. Then, softly, "People always show up to take things when they think you have more than they do." He had grown up understanding loss in ways adults still couldn't fathom. He had already seen the world at its most selfish. And now, he was watching it try to rewrite itself at his expense. The judge had seen the truth, but the trial wasn't over yet. And the next witness Clara called would force us to confront the one thing neither of us was prepared for, a hidden part of Liam's past he never knew existed. The break felt endless. I watched people filter in and out of the courtroom, voices low, shoes clicking, papers rustling. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead like a warning. Liam sat beside me still as stone, eyes lowered, fingers tapping once on his yellow cup, tucked tightly into his palm. We had exposed the forgery. We had proven Clara tampered with legal documents right there in front of the judge. For a moment, I let myself hope it was over, but Clara wasn't leaving quietly. After the recess, her lawyer returned with a new strategy, one that didn't involve documents or timestamps, something softer, something sinister. "Your Honor," he said, standing with a measured calm, "we would like to call our next witness, a licensed mental health professional who can provide important context regarding Liam's upbringing and developmental needs." My chest tightened. Then she walked in, a woman in her mid-40s with soft waves of chestnut hair and a folder tucked under her arm. I recognized her instantly, Dr. Evelyn Harris. She was a child psychologist, one who had evaluated Liam once, years ago, during a school district assessment. We'd only been assigned to her for 6 months. She had never even stepped foot in my home. She took the stand and spoke calmly, clearly. "I evaluated Liam at age 9 after concerns were raised about his social development. He was displaying signs consistent with autism spectrum disorder, with heightened sensory sensitivity and limited peer engagement." That much was true. Then came the twist. I recommended collaborative parenting approaches at that time, but I was informed that his mother was no longer involved. My concern was that his grandmother, though loving, had formed a dependent dynamic that could lead to isolation over time. My jaw clenched, my vision washed white with shock. "Do you believe," Clara's lawyer asked gently, "that Liam staying exclusively with his grandmother has impeded his emotional development?" Dr. Harris paused, just long enough for the quiet to stretch. "I believe it reinforced his dependence on rigid structures and limited external relationships. Family reconnection, even later in life, is important for balance, growth, and healing." The courtroom felt like it tilted sideways. Of course, they weren't arguing just for custody anymore. They were laying the foundation for mental harm. They wanted to make me look unfit, not because of what I did, but because of what I represented. The lawyer turned to Liam, voice soft, almost sympathetic. "And Liam," he said, "you didn't know that Dr. Harris reviewed your case file after the first evaluation. She wasn't allowed to discuss it then, but she recommended that both parents be involved in your development. Isn't that something you would have wanted if given the choice?" Liam looked up, directly at the lawyer, then at the judge. "No," he said, voice flat. "I wanted peace. I wanted one home." The lawyer nodded like he expected that. "But now you're 17, you're successful, you have resources. Don't you think it's time to reevaluate your relationships? Isn't it possible your grandmother kept you from what you deserved to have earlier in life?" That was the moment I realized what this was really about. Not truth, not rights. Leverage. Emotional pressure designed to plant one seed of doubt. What if she held you back? Liam blinked, slowly, like an old computer rebooting. "Do you want to know what I really deserved?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper but clear in the stillness. "A mother who stayed. A father who didn't disappear. A friend who didn't turn when money arrived." He looked over at Clara then, cold, sharp, unwavering. "I didn't lose anything when they left," he continued quietly. "I lost when they came back." For the first time since she arrived, Clara's mask cracked. Her fingers shook. Daniel shifted uncomfortably, and Dr. Harris's confidence faltered, but the judge wasn't done. "Mr. Hayes," she said, cold serious, "you're asking for joint legal authority over your son's financial and creative works. On what grounds, given your lack of involvement since birth?" Daniel straightened and gave the answer I feared most. "My name is on the birth certificate," he said. "I am and always have been legally recognized as his father. That gives me standing." The room fell silent. It wasn't wrong. As cruel as it felt, it was true. We had thrown everything we had at proving the past. But now the law itself was being used like a weapon. It was no longer about lies. It was about possession. The judge hadn't ruled yet, but what Liam did next, outside the courtroom, changed everything. He wasn't done fighting, and he was willing to break his own rules to protect the truth. The court adjourned early that day, no verdict yet, just mounting tension. We walked out through the heavy glass doors into chilly afternoon air. Reporters were waiting this time. They swarmed like bees, microphones in hand, cameras pointed toward Liam as if he were an exhibit and not a boy. Liam, are you willing to reconcile with your parents? Do you think your grandmother manipulated your childhood? Will you be able to manage your finances responsibly? Questions like bullets, each one firing at something personal, something raw. Liam didn't answer any of them. I put myself between him and the crowd, hands tense at my sides. Please leave us alone, I said, but it only made them swarm closer. Then I felt a touch on my sleeve, light but firm. Liam was pulling me toward the car. Once we were inside, the world quieted, and I felt myself exhale for the first time in hours. I turned to him, ready to comfort, but he wasn't broken. He was calculating. They won't stop, he said, staring straight ahead. Not in court, not in public. They want to change the story so completely that everyone will believe it. We won today, I said, voice trying to sound confident. We proved she forged documents. That has to matter. It matters legally, he said, but narrative matters too. There was that word again, narrative, story, perception. The weapon they were using and the battlefield they understood better than we did. When we got home, he went straight upstairs, not to his computer, not to his notebooks, but to the small storage box in his closet. It was an old shoebox, decorated with colored tape and stickers. I had nearly forgotten about it. He brought it downstairs and set it gently on the dining table. This is my evidence, he said. Inside were items he'd kept since childhood. A crumpled drawing of a house with two figures, one small, one tall, holding hands. A birthday card from me with a handwritten note. I'm proud of you always. A school award ribbon for quiet persistence from 4th grade. A photograph of him at 8, sitting on the steps outside our house with his yellow cup, looking everywhere but the camera. And then, at the bottom, sealed in a plastic bag, a voicemail transcript. Not the usual kind. This one was from the night Clara first left. A digital file, saved from my old answering machine long before smartphones made it easy to forget. I just need a break, Mom. I can't handle him. I'll figure it out. I'll call back. That was it. There was no follow-up call. She didn't leave because she was forced out, Liam said quietly. She left because she didn't want to stay. I stared at that little piece of paper like it was a miracle and a heartbreak wrapped together. We hadn't digitized it because I didn't think we'd need it. Because I didn't think Clara would ever want to come back. We'll scan it, Liam said. We'll chain it like the others. It won't just be proof, it'll be undeniable. But then something in his voice shifted. It softened. This isn't about court anymore, he whispered. It's about breaking a story they're writing around us and telling our own before they erase it. He looked up at me for the first time since we left the courthouse. His eyes, so calm, carried something deeper, resolve. What are you going to do? I asked. He closed the box gently. I'm going to make a video. My heart thudded. I knew how much he hated being recorded. The news segment had nearly overwhelmed him. He wasn't a storyteller. He was a builder, a verifier. And yet, I need people to see the truth, he said. Not just legal truth, emotional truth. The one they can feel. I sat down slowly. Liam, that's a big step. He looked at the yellow cup in his hand, fingers resting on it like it was the anchor in all of this. It's the only step left. That night, I watched him set up his 3 monitors like a movie studio, camera centered, background simple, lighting soft. Not dramatic, not rehearsed, just real. He wasn't fighting just for his software anymore, or even the money. He was fighting for how history would remember him. Us, this family. And he wasn't going to let them paint him as the story's footnote. Liam's video went online the next morning, and that's when everything erupted. The media wanted him. The public took sides. And Clara, she responded in a way that nearly crushed us. Liam uploaded the video early the next morning. No fancy editing, no music, no dramatic text, just him sitting at his desk, back straight, voice even. The yellow cup sat beside him like a small but powerful symbol. He spoke with a clarity that television interviews had never captured. My name is Liam Collins. I'm 17 years old. I'm autistic. I built a system that verifies whether documents are real. But that's not what this video is about. This is about honesty, about my life, and about what happens when people try to rewrite the past. He told the truth simply, how his mother left, how no one came back, how I became his home. He showed the scanned voicemail transcript. He didn't smear anyone. He didn't rage. He didn't need to. He just told the truth. Within hours, the video had spread further than any news segment ever had. People weren't just watching, they were reacting. Some were outraged on his behalf. Some doubted his version. Others dug through public records, debated, shared, argued, and speculated. The truth had left our kitchen and entered the world. By evening, journalists were emailing. Talk shows requested live interviews. Influencers made videos analyzing the boy who verified the truth. Hashtags appeared. Number let Liam speak, number digital custody, number autistic and independent. But with all that attention came something I hadn't been prepared for. Noise. People who had never met us suddenly had opinions about who the villain was. Internet strangers dissected everything, from my parenting to Liam's monotone voice. Someone even questioned why he still kept a baby cup on his desk. "He's autistic," another commenter snapped. "Stop expecting your idea of emotion and growth." It became impossible to read any of it without feeling sick. Then Clara responded. She didn't make a video. She went bigger. At 8 p.m., a sleek statement appeared online, a press release from her attorney titled, "A Mother's Right to Heal, My Truth, My Son, Our Future." I clicked the link, bracing myself. She painted herself as a woman trapped by depression and maternal burnout, pushed away by a judgmental mother. She claimed I weaponized Liam's condition to isolate him and framed her abandonment as a temporary breakdown no one helped her recover from. The worst part was her closing line. "If coming forward makes me the villain in strangers' eyes, I will accept that. My son deserves peace, and peace requires a family." She wrote it like she was the hero of a tragic memoir. Within hours, public opinion split. Some defended her, some tore her apart. Some painted me as the controlling grandmother who groomed a vulnerable child to hate his mother. And then the threats came. Anonymous emails. One-liners at first. "You're not his mother. Give the kid a chance to have a normal family. He's going to regret defending you. You're a bitter old woman holding him back." Liam saw them too. He didn't cry. He didn't panic. He got quiet. That scared me more than anything. Around midnight, I stepped into his room. He sat at his desk, not coding, not scrolling, just staring at the screen like it was a doorway. "Talk to me," I said. He turned slowly. "She's winning," he said. "Not legally, but emotionally. They're believing her." "No," I said, sitting beside him. "Some are believing her, but many are believing you too." "That's not enough," he whispered. "People don't follow proof. They follow stories." There it was. We had evidence. She had narrative, and public narrative could bend truth until it looked like something else entirely. "I didn't want this," he said finally. "I just wanted silence. I wanted to write code, not be a story." I reached out, gently resting my hand on the table, not on him. "You learn after years where a touch can hurt. You are a story," I said, "but not hers to tell." He looked up, eyes weary, resolve flickering. "That's why we're going back to court," he said. "Not just to win, but to end it." And that night, as he finally fell asleep with his yellow cup beside his pillow, I realized something. Truth doesn't survive by accident. It survives by being fought for. The next day, we walked back into the courtroom ready for war. But Clara wasn't finished. She had one last surprise, a witness whose testimony didn't just challenge the past, it threatened to rewrite the future. The third day of court smelled like old wood and unease. No cameras allowed this time, just the crackling tension of a room grown familiar with war. Clara sat at her table in a cream-colored blouse, hair pulled back, face composed. Daniel was silent beside her, his jaw set like concrete. Their lawyer shuffled papers with calm certainty, as if the outcome was already written. But we had come prepared. Our lawyer walked in with a quiet confidence, carrying a thicker binder than before. Liam wore the same simple shirt he'd worn in his video. His yellow cup was tucked into his pocket, out of sight, but there. Today was supposed to be the final round of testimony. Both sides had already presented their primary evidence. This was the last chance for Clara to sway the judge, and she came ready to do exactly that. Her lawyer stood and cleared his throat. "Your Honor," he began, "the mother has one final witness. Someone who has first-hand experience with the emotional and developmental impact of Mr. Collins' upbringing. someone whose testimony speaks to both past harm and future risk. I tensed. Who could this be? We had prepared for teachers, maybe a distant cousin, someone she'd coached to doubt me, but nothing prepared me for who walked in. A woman in her late 30s, hair pinned back, eyes weary but familiar, achingly familiar. It took me several seconds to place her face. Then, like a vice tightening around my heart, I remembered Maria Simmons, Liam's first-grade teacher, the one who told me he wasn't ready for a standard classroom. The one who had insisted he needed a special school for his own good, not a regular one. I had fought her fiercely back then, and won. I had never forgotten her expression the day we pulled Liam from her classroom. A mixture of disappointment and disdain. Now she was standing in front of me, arms folded, her voice perfectly calm as she swore to tell the truth. "Miss Simmons," Clara's lawyer said, "can you tell the court your professional opinion on Liam's development while in the care of his grandmother?" Maria looked directly at me, not at the judge, when she answered. "I believe there was love in that home," she said, "but also control. In my observation, Liam's grandmother kept him isolated from peers, removed him from opportunities to learn, and refused needed interventions. That was a blow, but it wasn't new." Then she continued, "And I believe that contributed to behavioral stagnation. I documented early signs of trauma, not just autism, but when I recommended therapy and engagement with both parents, I was shut out." My throat tightened. "That is simply not true," our lawyer objected. "Miss Simmons recommended a specialized behavioral program we disagreed with based on a second evaluation." But she wasn't finished. "I also witnessed the emotional collapse of his mother," she added gravely. "Clara confided in me more than once. She was terrified. She felt her son didn't love her. She felt pushed out. And her mother, Mrs. Collins, created that division." A hush fell. Even the judge looked up. There it is, I thought. The oldest lie, whispered in a new form, that love which protects is actually control that poisons. Our lawyer rose, face tight but composed. "Miss Simmons, are you aware that Clara left the home while Liam was 5, with no contact for 11 years? She paused. "That is what I was told by Mrs. Collins. But trauma can alter memory. The story changed every time I asked." Now she was implying I had lied, rewritten history, manipulated even myself. That was the strategy, to make me not just wrong, but unreliable. My heart pounded. I wanted to shout, to shake the walls, to pull every document from the binder and throw them at her feet. But this was their trap. Emotional outburst equals instability. Their story wins. Liam stood. He was not supposed to, he had not been called, but he stood anyway, voice steady. "May I speak?" he said to the judge. For a moment, the room froze, then the judge nodded slowly. Briefly, Liam walked to the stand. He didn't look at Maria or at Clara. He looked only at the judge. "I grew up on facts," he said, "not versions." He unfolded a piece of paper from his pocket, an old one, folded in quarters, worn but unbroken. "This is a report Miss Simmons wrote when I was 6, he said, holding it up. "She wrote that I was not emotionally capable of standard learning, that I was unlikely to develop self-directed communication. She said I needed separation from other children and long-term institutional support." He laid the paper on the table. "And I am here today, speaking for myself, running a program I built, testifying in a courtroom where the people who left me are trying to take what they didn't make." He didn't shout. He didn't cry. He didn't shake. He just told the truth. "I was never isolated," he continued. "I was protected from people who believed I wouldn't get better, from people who thought restriction was help, from people who saw a limitation instead of a person." Then he turned and looked directly at Maria for the first time. "I am not a trauma story. I am not your failure. I am not her regret." Silence dropped, like someone had switched off the world. Even Clara looked stunned. Even Daniel shifted in his seat. The court was stunned into stillness, but shocks were still coming. Before the judge could speak, one final piece of evidence surfaced, one that neither side expected, and that changed everything. When Liam finished speaking, the courtroom didn't breathe. Not for a full 3 seconds. The judge broke the silence with her own deep inhale, and the sound echoed off the walls like a gavel on stone. "We will recess briefly," she said at last, her voice measured, but her eyes unguarded. She was moved. That much was clear. Whether it was enough, I didn't know. As the judge left, Clara and her lawyer hurried out in a hiss of whispered strategy. Daniel lingered for a moment, staring at his shoes like they suddenly weighed more than him. Maria stood quietly, her hands shaking slightly as she gathered her papers. Her mask was cracking. This wasn't how she expected it to go. Liam walked back toward me slowly, as if the air itself had thickened. "You were perfect," I whispered, but he didn't look relieved. He looked uneasy. "They're not done," he said. "They're desperate, that's worse." We sat down again, waiting. My stomach was clenched so tight it felt like my insides had turned to gravel. The light seemed too bright, the room too loud, even in total silence. Our lawyer leaned in. That moment mattered. "But we still need a final piece," he said, "something undeniable." Every document, every recording, every timestamp, all were powerful, but they were only pieces of a larger puzzle. We needed something that could not be reinterpreted, reframed, or spun into story. The judge returned. She was about to speak when a bailiff stepped into the courtroom, holding a sealed envelope. "Your Honor," he said, "a submission has been filed electronically for immediate consideration. It includes attached media to be presented to the court." "What media?" the judge asked. He handed over a printed screen of the file index. "Family Court Custody Hearing Exhibit G X-14 Subject. Clara Collins, 2014 therapy recording my heart pounded so loud I could barely hear." The judge accessed the digital file on her monitor. The gallery screens lit up a second later. It was a video, grainy, low quality, but unmistakably real. Clara sat in a cheap therapy office 10 years earlier, hair disheveled, face pale, a box of tissue on the side table. The therapist, unseen, asked a question. "What makes you feel like you can't stay?" She exhaled shakily. "I feel like I hate him," she said. "I know that's wrong. I know it's not his fault. But every day it's like this weight. Every sound he makes feels like drowning." My fists trembled. Liam didn't move. The therapist's voice came again. "Have you told anyone? Your mother? The school?" "No," Clara whispered. "I can't. They'll hate me. But I can't do it anymore. I want to disappear." Then, the crucial moment, "If I leave him with her, he'll be better off," she said. A pause, "and I won't have to fail every day." The recording ended. Silence again. But this time, it wasn't frozen, it was broken. Clara looked like she had been electrocuted. Her face went ghost white. Daniel stared at her, then at the floor, shaking his head slowly like he had never seen her before. Our lawyer stood. "Your Honor, this recording was obtained legally through a former therapist who has since retired and allowed its release with client consent. It contradicts the narrative presented, not just in detail, but in intent." Clara shot to her feet. "That video was part of my healing. It's being taken out of context." "No," Liam said suddenly, not loud, but sharp. "That was the moment you told the truth. Everything since has been context." For once, she had nothing to say. The judge folded her hands and took a long moment before speaking. "This court recognizes the complexity of mental health, but it also recognizes intent," she said. Then she looked directly at Clara. "And you stated your intent clearly, long before any of this." The lawyer was sweating. Maria was staring at her lap. Daniel was crumbling in silence. Clara's empire of narrative had been shattered by her own words, captured before she had learned how to weaponize them. The judge turned to Liam. "You have shown remarkable clarity and evidence beyond what this court typically receives," she said. "Your independence and understanding of your own life has been impossible to ignore." Then she turned to me. "Mrs. Collins, your guardianship shall remain as it is. Sole, custodial, legal." I stopped breathing. "And regarding financial control," the judge continued, "Liam will retain full authority over all earnings, property, and intellectual contribution, with legal protections in place until he is 18. Finally, and it is the ruling of this court," she finished, "that neither biological parent is to request financial access or guardianship again unless initiated by Mr. Collins himself." At last, it was done. Not because we screamed loudest, not because of luck, but because the truth stayed intact long enough to be seen. The courtroom was silent as the judgment echoed. But the hardest moment came afterward, outside in the hallway, where Clara faced us one last time, without her lawyer, her lies, or her mask. We walked out of the courtroom like ghosts. No victory parade, no cheering voices. Just exhaustion. Relief so heavy it felt like a weight strapped to my back instead of lifted from it. The kind that follows a war you never wanted to fight in the first place. The hallway was nearly empty. Beyond the glass doors, the world kept moving, cars passed, people walked, phones buzzed. Everything was ordinary out there. But inside me, everything had changed. We were gathering our things when a quiet voice stopped us. "Helen," I turned. Clara stood alone in the shadow of the staircase. No lawyer, no father, no witness, no mask, just Clara, the woman I raised. The child I once held when she was barely older than Liam had been on the night she left him behind. She looked smaller now, but not because she had lost, because she had finally run out of places to hide. "I didn't know about the recording," she said, voice hoarse. "I thought it was gone." I said nothing. It felt like the only safe choice. She glanced at Liam, then down at her hands. They trembled, whether from shame or anger, I couldn't tell. "He deserved better," she said. "Yes," I replied quietly. "He did." Her eyes flicked up, wounded. "From me?" I didn't answer, not out of cruelty, but because it was no longer my role to soften the truth. "He's all you see," she whispered then, "and I'm not even in the picture anymore." I swallowed. For a moment, her words cracked something inside me, not because they were true, but because they echoed a memory I'd buried years ago. A younger voice, a younger Clara. "Why don't you need me?" she'd asked when she was 16, angry and crying because Liam had needed me more than she did, and I had missed it. I had chosen the child who cried louder, the one who trembled at touch and screamed at sound, the one whose needs were urgent, consuming, life or death scaled. And so, a different kind of child had grown quietly invisible, until she broke. That didn't excuse what she had done, not even slightly, but it painted the past with a shade I hadn't seen before. Liam stepped forward. His movements were slow, deliberate, the way he walked when he'd mentally rehearsed every step beforehand. "Did you ever think I hated you?" he asked, his voice soft but sharp. She looked stunned. Stunned because she had expected silence, or rage, not that. "I thought you wouldn't remember me," she said quietly. "That you'd grown out of needing a mother." "I didn't," he said, "but you left anyway." She closed her eyes, and something about her shoulders cracked. He didn't walk closer. He didn't offer comfort. He wasn't there to save her. But he wasn't there to punish her either. "I'm not changing my mind," he said. "About the ruling, about my life, about my home." Clara nodded, slow, hollow, accepting. "But," he added, and her eyes widened at the word, "if you ever want to show up for real, not for court, not for money, write me a letter. One letter, honest." He didn't offer his phone number. No email, a letter, something real. Something with weight. Something that couldn't be edited, reframed, or deleted after being sent. She nodded again, tears beginning to gather. Then, quietly, she turned and left. No dramatic goodbye, no reaching back. Just the sound of fading footsteps on courthouse tile. I watched her go, feeling no triumph, just a long exhale of pain finally loosening its grip. I turned to Liam. "You didn't have to be kind," I said, my voice breaking. He held up the yellow cup between us, fingers resting gently on it. "It wasn't kindness," he said. "It was closure." We walked outside, sunlight waiting, spring air cool on our faces. He looked up at the sky, eyes quiet, body calm in a way I hadn't seen since he was a child watching leaves fall at the window. "You okay?" I whispered. He took a breath, a deep, balanced breath. "Yes," he said. For the first time, yes. The door closed behind us. The past stayed inside, and the future, whatever it was, finally belonged to us. The legal battle was over, but our story didn't end there. The last chapter isn't about courts or conflict, it's about what happens after survival. And the message Liam left behind for every kid who was ever told they were too broken to win. It took days, maybe weeks, for the adrenaline to finally settle. For me, the quiet was unnerving at first. After months of paper trails, courtroom benches, and boiling fear, a calm house felt unnatural. But for Liam, it was restoration. He returned to the rhythm of keyboard clicks, late-night coding, and silent mornings with tea and a pencil between his fingers. The war was over. But something had changed in him, something subtle yet seismic. One evening, I found him by the kitchen window, his laptop closed for once, watching the sunset bleed orange into the clouds. The yellow cup was on the windowsill beside him, still chipped, still whole. "I want to do something new," he said without turning. My heart fluttered. "Something new with your work?" "No," he said. then paused. Something new with my story. He cleared his throat, struggling not with words but with meaning. People saw me in court, but they didn't see other kids, ones like me who won't get that chance, who will lose because they don't have someone with binders of proof or a program to catch lies. He turned then, eyes sharp and calm. I want to build something for them. That was the spark. That night, he sat down with a blank file and began to create the outline for his next project. Not a tool for corporations, not something to sell, but an open-source system anyone could use. A platform to protect vulnerable stories from being rewritten. To authenticate testimonies, preserve records, stamp truth before the world had a chance to distort it. He called it Lucid Archive because the truth should be clear, and he released it quietly. No press, no social media, just an upload and a README file that began with, "This is for the kids people underestimate. For every quiet child who sees the truth before anyone else believes it. For anyone who's ever been rewritten, truth deserves protection." Elsie, 2025, I printed that note and framed it on my writing desk. The weeks passed. No letter came from Clara, no call, no apology. And I stopped waiting for one. Instead, I found peace in the small routines. Tea at 7, Liam coding by the window at 9, quiet laughter over dinner when I accidentally bought decaf instead of regular. Instead of a storm, we had a life, a soft, steady one we had fought to have, even if we didn't mean to build it. Sometimes I catch him holding that yellow cup and wonder how something so small became the vessel for everything. Weapared, we endured, and we survived. Other times, I think maybe it wasn't just survival. Maybe it was victory. Liam will be 18 next month. He's already planning a small gathering. No balloons, no speeches, just his favorite food, which is still scrambled eggs and toast, but now with chili flakes. And I realized something one morning while slicing fruit under the quiet hum of the kettle. We weren't just lucky, we were prepared. Because people like Liam, people who see the world differently, are often forced to fight harder. And the ones who love them are forced to become shields. But in the end, the world is better for having them in it. As for me, I still wake up afraid some days. That's true. Afraid the world will find a new angle to twist, a new narrative to sell. But then I look at him, at the calm in his hands, at the precision in his work, at the quiet force of a person who refused to be erased, and I remind myself, they didn't win, they never will, because we wrote our own ending. Thanks for watching. If you like this story, please subscribe to the channel for more emotional, heart-touching stories every day.